Monsters are cool, that's just a fact. Part of their endless appeal is that they are fundamentally strange and different to the world that we exist in. All of us can sit around and imagine that thing that would scare us when it goes bump in the night, but for Turtle Rock Studios, they had to figure out how to articulate that in such a way that you could control it, that it would become natural as you unleash your inner beast.
Shield is up, let's see what you got!
So, really, an essential component, and one of the signature element of Evolve is the monster. Monsters are fantastical creatures. So really, there's almost like a sky's the limit on what you can do with them. What did you know, though, going in, what you had to do, A, to have an exciting monster, and one that would be competitive inside of the game environment?
I mean, from a visual standpoint, you know, we just kind of dove into it, not really sure what we wanted to do. I think the initial goal was to come up with monsters that, you know, something that you'd never seen before, right? And so what we ended up with were some monsters that, as works of art, were really cool, but you would look at them and you didn't know what the hell you were looking at, right? They were just kind of so strange that they weren't really scary, one, and two, as a monster player, you couldn't connect with them. The thing that we find is, you know, you want to be attached to your character, right? Hunters. Monsters are no different, right? I mean, if I'm going to play the monster, I want to have some kind of connection to that creature, right? We gave Goliath lips, right, so that the animators could pull them back, you know, and have him snarl, and you know, and eyelids that can, you know, allow them to blink. Suddenly, they were characters instead of these sort of abstract pieces of art.
Got her now!
There's a lot of function and form that has to, you know, they have to coexist at all times and simultaneously. That, you know, it has to look a certain way, but that's also going to allow it to control a certain way, because unlike, say, maybe an AI-controlled creature that can have sort of a limited range of behavior, this has to be fully player-controlled and be enjoyable. Right. So there has to be sort of a good range of what you can do with it.
Mm-hmm. And a challenge there is, you know, in most games with a boss battle, the boss has these routines that he runs, and they go through these cycles that are, you figure out the rhythms, right, and then you can beat him. But as soon as that is player controlled, now there's no rhythms, so now we put tells. A good example would be Goliath's rock throw, where he physically goes to pick up the rock and puts it over his head. And even though that's player controlled and the player has complete control of when he releases that rock, I've already seen that he's going to throw a rock as a player, so I'm ready to dodge, right? You create these windows, and you gotta ride that razor's edge, and that's where kind of the fun gameplay comes out between the two teams.
When you first started out with the game, with the monsters and where they are now, a lot has happened. The evolution of Goliath and Kraken. If you could sort of detail like what you thought you were going to be doing at the beginning, and then we can talk about sort of where it is now.
Each monster always sort of filled a specific role. So we always knew off the bat that Goliath was the brawler, and he needed to get up close, always close the distance to get close to the hunters to sort of seal the deal. When we started, it was originally first person. It was a tedious affair, I guess to say the least, to try to keep track of 4 guys who are all just ganging up on you. It's just frustrating for the player. Like, it wasn't an enjoyable experience.
We played the game for a long time in first person, and one of the things that we never really saw was the sense of scale or like change. The evolution, the name of the game, was something that we had to sell. We knew that much. And you raise a camera up a few feet or even a couple meters, there was no impact, and definitely nothing exciting.
Getting taller is only part of it. Like, it's very difficult to sell like a sense of weight and size. It just feels like you're driving like the crappiest car ever. You know, it takes forever to turn around. You know, you're trying to turn the corner and you're just driving a boat. You know, and we were trying all these different things to say like, you're big, you're powerful now, you can knock down trees and things, but it just always felt like a frustrating work to make that happen. Yeah. And if we could see the monster, I can sell his weight, how big he is, we could make him look really cool, and you know that's you. Like, why are we hiding the cool looking monster?
We were actually kind of worried that, hey, if this third-person monster thing works, it might be shut down just on the premise that it's too different from the other part of the game, and like maybe that juxtaposition isn't going to make sense to people. But it was cool because the reaction was, wow, the monster, they feels like their own experience now. The monster is his own guy, the hunters are their own guys, and it was like just kind of this accidental byproduct that it actually added something for them to be different. So that was really cool.
You know, we say monster, and I think we're conditioned to go bad guy or thing, which I should be very comfortable to loathe. But really, in the game, they're remarkable animals. Like there really isn't kind of a moral judgment that's passed on them, and you know, maybe sort of in allusion to movies like King Kong. You know, there's at times I couldn't help but have a degree of pathos, even sometimes when I was the hunter. I mean, did you always kind of see it as having, I don't say moral ambiguity, but actually a moral equity between the hunters and the monster itself?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing about the monsters that we decided very early on is we're not telling you where they're from. We're not telling you what their motivations are, right? That's all left to your imagination. Certainly when I'm playing as the monster, I feel like I'm the good guy and they're the bad guys, and of course vice versa, right?
I mean, that is one of the most sort of fun aspects. It is indulging, I think, many sort of childhood fantasies so many of us have always had. I mean, I assume that must have been ridiculous fun in the beginning to just kind of think of the monster, then think of the monster's sort of rule set, and just come up with like all of that logic. I mean, very few people get to have, that indulgence.
Yeah, that was such a huge opportunity for us. Being able to get it signed and actually build the game that we wanted to make, and it was really us sitting there fantasizing about, all the different things that, and you could have a harpoon gun that you could shoot and it would stop the monster, but then he could break it, and so going through all of that stuff and actually seeing it, become reality is amazing.
One of the great pleasures of conducting these interviews, and hopefully for all of you in watching them, has been such a fascinating look at the creative process of a talented developer. The experimentation, the risks, all in pursuit of something that wants to be fundamentally fun. From what I can see, that's been accomplished. But there's one more step in this creative evolution, and that's all of us playing the game.